You are listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe News Hour. Hello, and welcome to Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here and that you want to listen to the trucking news. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. In our first story, a semi collides with 3 fire trucks and a driver is hurt. A North Carolina interstate is shut down for a major crash involving a semi-truck and multiple fire trucks. This happened around 4 a.m. on August 10th in North Carolina, north of Salisbury. According to the North Carolina Highway Patrol, 3 Miller's Ferry fire trucks were responding to a previous semi-truck fire on southbound Interstate 85 at around mile marker 82. Troopers say that a second semi-truck struck one of the fire trucks, causing it to collide with the 2 other fire trucks. Luckily, no firefighters were injured. The semi-truck driver was injured in the crash and was transported to the hospital. The North Carolina Department of Transportation says that I-85 southbound was closed until around noon that day. Drivers were asked to seek alternate routes. And up next, a dump truck is entangled in a highway sign. A dump truck driver is having a rough morning in Arizona after becoming caught up on an overhead highway sign. The incident occurred on Tuesday morning in the southbound lanes of Loop 202 South Mountain Freeway. This happened August 10th when a dump truck raised bed collided with an overhead highway sign, causing damage to the sign supports. No other vehicles were involved, and luckily no one was hurt. Not something you see every day, said the Arizona DOT. The cause of the sign strike remains unclear. Why he had his dump bed raised. He forgot to lower it. I mean, that happens. I used to run a dump truck, and from time to time that happens. And in this story, a truck driver is jailed after assaulting a driver with a sledgehammer during a road rage incident back in 2016. A truck driver in jail for allegedly assaulting a motorist with a sledgehammer during a road rage incident that, like I said, that occurred back in 2016. Police used a trucking company's driver's logs to identify him. According to the local news outlet, the incident occurred on November 29th of 2016 around Laredo, Texas. The victim said that the truck driver, 41-year-old Raul Antonio Ramirez, started blaring his horn at him while both vehicles were traveling south on Mines Road. Ramirez allegedly then cut off the victim's vehicle and boxed him in. The victim then told police that Ramirez got out of his truck and approached the victim's vehicle. Ramirez allegedly had a sledgehammer and a screwdriver. The victim told police that Ramirez began threatening him. They then told police that he feared for his life when Ramirez opened his door and struck him in the elbow with the sledgehammer. The driver of the car was able to shut the door and lock it. Ramirez allegedly then began walking around the victim's car, striking it several times with the sledgehammer. The incident was under investigation. Police used driver's logs from the trucking company, as I said, to identify him as the prime suspect in that incident. I'm like, I understand road rage, but good grief, people. And up next, a trucker captures a bizarre wrong-way driver incident. This happened I-95 South, exit 89 in Virginia. According to the local news, a motorist was driving the wrong way down the interstate and entered the exit ramp from the wrong direction. Luckily, a police officer was able to stop him before a serious crash occurred, but as he was being stopped, the man jumped from his car and began running down the road, causing a brief foot pursuit. Good Lord, the things that are happening anymore. And a poll from Florida reveals that trucker appreciation is up 27% thanks to COVID. Floridians are 27% more thankful for truckers than they were just a few months ago, says a recent poll. Again, this is back in August. According to a Mason-Dixon poll, actually it was conducted in July, 84% of Floridians have a positive attitude towards truck drivers these days versus a mere 57% prior to the virus. The poll also discovered that both women and young people have realized the worth of truck drivers during this crisis as well, and with their positive feelings up by 32% and 30% respectively. This means that only 6% of people in Florida have maintained their negative or somewhat negative attitude toward the heroes of the road, even in areas with major traffic. As the Florida Trucking Association says, your tomorrow is on a truck today. Exactly right. And look at this silly guy. He decides he's going to get a free ride on the back of a box truck. A man clings to the back of a box truck in Colorado interstate. The video was captured during a morning rush hour on August 7th at I-25 in Aurora, just outside of Denver. David Meyer, who captured and shared the video clip, estimated that the truck was traveling at about 60 miles an hour. That's one way to catch a ride, huh? And back in August, I-70 remained shut down for a massive fire, and truckers warned not to take some detours. The Colorado Department of Transportation says that Interstate 70 will remain closed indefinitely as firefighters work to contain the Grizzly Creek fire. Colorado DOT says that I-70 is closed in both directions. Through Glenwood Canyon from mile marker 116 to mile marker 140 as the Grizzly Creek fire spreads. The fine for tractor trailers on Independent Pass is $1,000 plus wrecker bill. Local law enforcement and social media users have already reported tractor trailers on those restricted passes. The DOT asks that motorists not use Cottonwood Pass, Eagle and Garfield counties, Independence Pass as detours, as these roads are not built for heavy traffic or commercial oversized vehicles. Vehicles over 35 feet in length may not use Independence Pass at any time. The Colorado DOT recommends that through traffic on 70 use a southern detour route, US 50 and US 285, due to construction on commonly used northern alternate routes. And they appreciate motorists for planning on alternate routes during that closure. And up next, the shooter was still at large after firing at least 10 shots at a semi-truck. This incident happened Tuesday, August 11th, near Kansas City, Kansas. Police in Kansas are asking for help from the public in locating a motorist who opened fire on a semi-truck. Police say that the semi-truck had just exited I-70 onto James Street when a suspect in a passenger vehicle opened fire on the truck at least 10 times. Luckily, the driver was not hurt. Investigators say that there's no known motive for the shooting and that the truck driver did not do anything to provoke the attack. Kansas City, Kansas police say that the suspect that time was still at large. I haven't heard anything more about it recently. He's described as a male of unknown age with dreadlocks driving a black Saturn VUE SUV. Police are using dash cam footage from the truck to learn more. If you have any information about this shooting that happened back in August, you can call the TIPS hotline at 816-474-TIPS, TIPS. That's 816-474-TIPS. And in this story, a trucker that I know from YouTube videos, it takes a dying former truck driver, military veteran, on his final ride. Jim Gerhardt is a Vietnam veteran and a former truck driver. He's dying from cancer. His final wish was to take a last ride in a semi-truck. Thanks to Gerald Johnson and his wife Mary, Jim got to take his final ride. Johnson, known to his fans as Trucker G, and Mary, also known as Mrs. G, saw a post in a trucking group on Facebook from Jim's wife Connie. In the post, Connie, a truck driver herself, explained that her husband Jim has terminal cancer. She said that he was a truck driver for 50 years. She asked if there are any drivers who are willing to give Jim a final ride. And I'll read her post from the article. Good morning to all my fellow truckers and women truckers. I and my husband, James Gerhardt, live in Duncan, Nebraska. He has terminal cancer. And he was driving up until June 29th of this year. He was in a really bad semi-truck accident. He is asking any truckers out there if they can come and give him his last wish to go for a final ride. If anyone would be so kind to answer his wish before he passes on, as his wife, I would really appreciate it. Trucker G and Mary knew they had to help. Trucker G, who was an owner-operator contracted with Cargill, was on a load to Texas, but he knew he needed to get to Nebraska, where Jim and Connie live, as soon as possible. He said he called Cargill to see if they had a load to Nebraska. He said, quote, I thought if they don't have a load, I'm dropping this load and deadheading. Trucker G explained the situation to Cargill, and within 30 minutes, Trucker G had a load from Texas to Nebraska. Quote, I immediately got off the phone and called Connie and said I'm on my way. Trucker G and Mrs. G rushed to get to Nebraska to take Jim for his final ride. On Tuesday, August 11th, Jim got to take that ride. Trucker G shared this emotional video to his Facebook page, where you can see it there. The video has been watched at that time more than 36,000 times since it went live. Trucker G said that Jim was wheeled out to the Kenworth in a wheelchair. It took all of his energy to get his cancer-riddled body out of the wheelchair and up into the truck. It took every bit of energy he had to climb into the truck, but he was determined. On the video, Trucker G asked Jim where he wants to go. Jim joked that they could go all the way to California. Quote, I was serious. I told him that we'd go as far as he wanted. I had 2 days off, and I was willing to take Jim on whatever ride he wanted. He says, we took it easy. We went out about 8 miles, and I could tell Jim was getting tired. There's a truck stop up ahead. I knew that was my cue that Jim was ready to head back. Trucker G said that was an emotional experience for him. Quote, I just keep trying to talk and swallow down the lump in my throat. This wasn't about my emotions. This was about Jim's ride. Trucker G said that he and his wife will stay in touch with Connie and Jim, and when the time comes, we'll be there for Connie. He added, people I help, I don't forget about them. I follow them to the end. Trucker G is dedicated to showing the good in trucking. He posts positive messages and videos, and you can follow him on Facebook. So there's a shout out to Trucker G. Hopefully he does the same for me one day. And up next, if you remember in a previous episode, I spoke about this mom who killed her daughter by using a semi-truck. She's sentenced 18 years to life for murder. This woman who admitted to using a semi-truck to kill her own daughter on an Ohio interstate has been sentenced. 38-year-old Kia Ferguson was sentenced back in July in Lake County Common Pleas Court to 18 years to life. She's also stripped of her driver's license for life. Ferguson pled guilty in June to charges of murder and attempted murder for a crash that killed her 10-year-old daughter and severely injured her 6-year-old son. Crash occurred back in January 25th of 2019 in Mentor, Ohio. I remember reporting on that. Prosecutors say that Ferguson drove across 2 lanes of traffic with her headlights off, timing it so that her vehicle collided with a UPS semi-truck on I-90. The crash caused Ferguson's car to skid down an embankment. Ferguson's daughter passed away as a result of the crash. Ferguson and her son both suffered critical injuries. The truck driver was unhurt. Ferguson was arrested following a 9-month investigation after Mentor City officials said that during the course of the investigation, it became clear that Ms. Ferguson intentionally drove in front of the semi. The legal team representing her said that she had been fired from her high-pressure job and was suffering from major depressive episode during that month leading up to the intentional crash. I don't care how depressed you are, that's no reason to kill your kids. If you don't want them, give them up for adoption. There's plenty of parents out there that are looking for having a kid of their own that can't have any kids. So I'm sorry, that's uncalled for. I don't feel sorry for her at all. And caught on video, a woman allegedly stops her car on the freeway and gets rear-ended by a semi, and then she fights the cops. A woman allegedly stopped her car on a California freeway, was rear-ended by a semi-truck, and then fought off cops. The incident occurred approximately 2:30 on Tuesday, August 11th on northbound Interstate 5 in California. According to authorities, they were called in to an accident involving a white Range Rover and a semi-truck. When police and the camera crew arrived, the woman was combative and resisted being detained. The identity of the woman was not identified. According to the local news outlet, the woman abruptly stopped her vehicle in the middle of the freeway. A semi-truck struck the Range Rover as a result. The woman was transported to a local hospital for assessment. There's no word on the condition of the truck driver. Hopefully the truck driver was okay in that accident. And in this story, a truck driver in a recent kidnapping case changes his plea to insanity. A truck driver accused of holding his wife hostage while evading police in his semi-truck changed his not guilty plea. According to the local news outlet, truck driver Patrick Berthelot's attorneys have filed a new motion stating that their client is unfit to stand trial and have amended his plea to not guilty by reason of insanity. Yeah, so he gets off of everything and gets a cushy little stint in a rehab facility somewhere. Berthelot had been charged with multiple counts of felony assault, 1 count of kidnapping and failure to comply with a police order following the incident on July 18th, during which he evaded police in his truck, left his injured wife on the interstate, and held himself at knife point. This is Berthelot's third run-in with the law. Last year, in 2019, he was indicted in Georgia for aggravated assault against his current wife. Dude, you got problems. Additionally, back in 2012, he was charged with attempted murder in Alabama against a different woman, described, quote-unquote, as his girlfriend. The murder charge was dismissed and Berthelot was given probation after pleading guilty to domestic violence. A conference to schedule Berthelot's current case was planned for August 18th, currently being held on $275,000 bond. And I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, that's not enough. And now let's take a short. This episode of Julia's Trucking Cafe is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As truck drivers, we all know what it's like to be at a shipper's or receiver's and have to wait to be loaded for hours on end. Am I right? Especially produce coolers and paper mills. That's why you need to be prepared with extra food in your truck, especially with the bad weather coming in, like it is over here in Kansas, up in the Dakotas and Minnesota. 90 was shut down, Interstate 94 was shut down, along with 29. What are you going to do if there's no food and a truck stop was without power? That's why you need to stay prepared with My Patriot Supply. Now, it's not what you're thinking. My Patriot Supply is delicious emergency food. They have food kits that are good up to 25 years. They come in a slimline tote that you can easily store in your food pantry or under your bunk. I can speak from experience. After living through Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for 10 days, me, my mother, son, and I. If it weren't for the MREs that were flown into us, we wouldn't have any food. There was 4 60-foot pine trees that broke in half during that storm and crossed my driveway and landlocked me in. That's when My Patriot Supply would have come in handy. If I knew then what I know now about My Patriot Supply, I definitely have some of this food stockpiled in my pantry. Now, for a limited time, you could get a 1-week supply of food in a handy and neat looking ammo can, like you see here, for just $39. Look at all that food you get. It's a week's worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners, just for 39 bucks. How do you get it? Where do you go, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Just go to my website at juliastrucketcafe.com, click on the Emergency Food Supply tab, scroll down and click on any of the images to find out more information and get yours today. They even offer gluten-free food for under $100. Winter weather is here. What would you do if the interstate was shut down, just like I was talking about? You need to get My Patriot Supply and get it today. Welcome back to Julia's Truck and Cafe. Thank you so much for joining me again. And in this story, an agency warns of fake COVID texts being sent to truck drivers. This happened back in August. Cross-border truckers beware. Authorities have issued warning about scam text messages being sent to truck drivers. Canadian Border Service Agency recently issued a warning about fake text messages being sent to truck drivers, purportedly to be from the government of Canada. The text messages say that travelers returning to Canada from the U.S. are legally required to quarantine for 14 days. Text message also orders recipients who are experiencing a cough, fever, or sore throat to contact the Canadian Border Services Agency. The text includes a fake bit.ly, a biddy link. Canadian Border Service Agency says that they are aware that commercial vehicle drivers are receiving this message. They say that the texts are not valid government communications and that truck drivers remain exempt from the quarantine requirement because they are essential workers. So in other words, if you ever receive a fake text message from the Canadian government, I would definitely check it out and make sure that it's, fake or really not legit. And in this story, an I-5 shooter in California was still at large. I'm sorry, Oregon, my bad. I didn't have the article up at the time. Sorry about that. It's Oregon on I-5. Oregon State Police have issued a new warning after a shooter continues to take aim at vehicles on a busy interstate. The initial warning was back on July 14th about a shooter targeting vehicles traveling along I-5 between Roseburg and Grants Pass. At that time, the state police said that 5 vehicles have been struck by bullets on Interstate 5 between milepost 67 and 100. At least one of the vehicles targeted by the shooter was a semi-truck. On August 11th, the state police issued a new warning indicating that the I-5 shooter was still at large and opened fire on more vehicles in a larger area. Troopers say that 8 additional vehicles were hit by gunfire, bringing the total of known shooting incidents to 13. State police say that any driver traveling on I-5 who believes they've been shot at should call 911. The driver is asked to note the time and location of the shooting and to travel out of the area if possible. Don't pull over on the side of the road as soon as you get shot at. And get out of the area, but like the mile sticker, what time it is, what kind of weather it is, hilly, flat, which direction it came from. You're traveling east, did it come from the north, did it come from east, did it come from the south, this kind of thing. Where did you hear the gunfire at, or if it hit your car, what side it was on. Even take pictures as well, once you're out of the area. They are once again asking the public for help in locating the shooter. Anyone with information is asked to contact them at 1-800-442-2068. Reference State Police case number 20-173444. That's SP 20-173444. In recent months, there was a number of highway shootings targeting truckers. around the country. And sad to say, another truck driver was found dead in his truck back in August. This happened at Hillsboro, Kansas company. According to the local paper, Joseph Gruba was found at Barkman Honey parking lot on August 5th at approximately 11:45 in the morning. Hillsboro police were called, and they told the local paper that Gruba was scheduled to be at Berkman Honey on the morning of August 4th. He made his appointment and began to stage his truck. Authorities believe he was backing up when he suffered a heart attack. They said, quote, "We could tell by his tracks. Luckily, he was between gears in neutral when he passed. If he was in gear and the brakes weren't set, that thing could have just rolled until it hit something." They would have noticed him, though. Gruba sat in his truck unnoticed until the next day. Nobody thought twice about it, really, the local officer said. It's just a truck sitting there in a lot full of trucks. By the time Gruba was discovered, it was too late. He was declared deceased at the scene. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family. May he rest in peace. It's been slowing down. A couple of years ago, there was lots of drivers dying in their trucks or around their trucks. And in this story, a suspect finally gets identified for July's windshield shattering brick throwing. Suspects have been identified in 2 brick throwing cases reported in Pennsylvania, the state police say. The incidents occurred back July 7th along Interstate 70, North Bell Vernon interchange in PA. Although these incidents happened over a month ago, the case was brought back to light after an investigation was launched into a shattered semi-truck windshield along the same highway on August 11th. The incident was deemed an accident involving road debris. Quote, "We believe the early morning Wednesday incident was accidental, caused by road debris being lifted from another vehicle. It was an accident and there was no criminal intent," said the local police commander. According to the local paper, during the initial incident, police received reports of bricks being thrown at 2 tractor trailers traveling eastbound, causing minor injuries to one of the drivers due to the shattered glass. Quote, "We do not anticipate filing criminal charges in those cases that occurred in North Bell. The suspects were not identified in the investigation, still ongoing." And that was the second half of the story, was like a little bit of background to what actually happened. So they did identify, to clarify, they did have identified the suspects. And it's going back as far as July. So that article is a little bit confusing, so sorry about that. And up next, a guy is wanted for stealing a semi-truck last week, is arrested for stealing a second semi-truck. I guess he just wants to be a truck driver but not have to pay for it. A South Carolina man was already wanted by police for stealing a semi-truck and was finally captured by law enforcement after he stole another rig. On August 12th, 29-year-old Austin Grimes was arrested by authorities following a police pursuit in a stolen semi-truck. Police were initially called to a hit and run on Highway 17A in Dorchester County that left multiple vehicles in a mobile home park damaged by a stolen Atlas Vans truck driven by Grimes. Officers caught up with them and a pursuit ensued. Police say that semi-truck was all over the road, sometimes at speeds of 75 miles an hour, and was trying to force other vehicles off the road, just like Dukes of Hazzard, huh? Grimes also allegedly attempted to ram a sheriff's office patrol car during the pursuit. He drove the stolen semi onto Interstate 95, and then the pursuit came to a stop when the truck's tire blew. He was arrested without further incident, being charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, failure to stop for blue lights, and driving under suspension. of his license. He already had an arrest warrant out for the August 6th incident, which he allegedly stole a semi-truck from a business in Charleston County. Authorities were able to track the truck to I-26 when Grimes refused to pull over. Police backed off for the safety of citizens, and the truck was later found abandoned. Police used helicopters and canine units, but were unable to locate him. And that all happened in South Carolina. And in this story, Colorado police are looking for a truck driver involved in a road rage accident that happened in, it happened in August. I want to make sure I'm right on the dates. I don't want to misinform anybody. Colorado State Police are searching for witnesses to a possible road rage incident involving a semi-truck and a Buick. The road rage incident resulted in a crash that injured the passenger. The incident occurred August 11th, approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on northbound Interstate 25 near mile marker 240 and 243 between the two, near the town of Meade, Colorado. According to a press release from the State Patrol, vehicles involved were a yellow 2006 Peterbilt pulling a white trailer and a 2002 tan or beige Buick sedan. The incident was being investigated as a crash resulting in minor injuries to a 41-year-old female passenger in the Buick. However, investigators have reason to believe road rage may have played a factor. The state police are asking anyone who might have witnessed the incident or events leading up to it to contact them at 303-239-4501. That's 303-239-4501. Reference case number 3A as in Apple 201083. That's 3A as in Apple 201083. And up next, police are puzzled after finding an unattended truck on fire. Minnesota police are working to learn more after discovering an unoccupied semi-truck burning along the shoulder of the roadway. Officers with the Stearns County Sheriff's Office responded to that call about a burning truck just after 11 p.m. Wednesday, August 12th in St. Augusta, Minnesota. When officers arrived on the scene, they found a 2016 red Freightliner without a trailer completely engulfed in flames. Authorities were unable to locate the truck driver or any witnesses other than the caller. The St. Augusta Fire Department responded to put out the fire, but the truck was a total loss. Circumstances surrounding the fire remained under investigation at that time. And in this story, a trucker defends himself with a cigarette after Florida man climbs on his steps. Now that is the watermark of the, I believe, Sheriff's Office. Yeah. Broward County Sheriff's Office. They put a watermark on the picture, so I'm sorry about how that looks. But the article says a Florida man is facing charges after an alleged road rage incident involving a truck driver. This happened Thursday, August 13th in Brevard County. Sorry, not Broward. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office said that the incident occurred while traffic was slowed on I-95 when a 37-year-old Orlando resident got into an argument with a 65-year-old semi-truck driver. During that argument, police say that the 37-year-old exited his vehicle and climbed up on the steps of the truck. Police also say that the truck driver used a cigarette to try to defend himself, which caused the 37-year-old to respond by pushing at his arm. He was then arrested and booked into the county jail. He was issued a felony charge of battery against a person 65 years of age or older. There you go. Don't be picking on the senior citizens. And cops say that motorists forced an oversized low driver off route, leaving him stuck. You know those big windmills that you see all the vanes all the time? Well, this is the canister to the stand that they sit on. A truck driver hauling a windmill part found himself stuck in an intersection in Iowa. This happened around Thursday, August 13th, around noon at Council Bluffs. According to the Council Bluffs Police Department, the truck driver was hauling a load that was approximately 16 feet tall and 187 feet long when he was forced into the wrong lane due to crowding by motorists. Once off the route, the truck was too large for the intersection at South Expressway and 30th Avenue. The intersection was closed for about a half an hour as Council Bluffs Police and the Iowa DOT responded to the scene to help get the truck turned around and back on route. After that incident, Council Bluffs Police urged motorists to give Oversized and their loads and pilot cars more room to maneuver. When around them, be cautious of their lane positioning and give them a wide berth as they have limited mobility and can only be on designated routes. And people don't know that, of course. And a truck driver was killed after mysteriously exiting his rig in the middle of a 3-lane highway. And they don't know why he pulled that stunt. A truck driver was killed around the 13th of August, Thursday morning, after parking and exiting his semi-truck on a busy Illinois highway. This was in Arlington Heights, a suburb of Chicago, along Interstate 90 and Route 53. According to the local news, 63-year-old truck driver was traveling westbound along Interstate 90 when he parked his 2008 Freightliner in the third lane of the 3-lane highway, got out of his truck, and standing in the second lane. An oncoming semi traveling in the third lane then swerved to avoid the stop rig, striking and killing the driver standing in the second lane. The second driver refused medical treatment on the scene. All lanes of I-90 were reopened about 1 o'clock that afternoon, but the incident was still under investigation. Sounds like a suicide to me. I've been doing this too long. And up next, truckers urge new regulations to protect citizens' profits from Mexican carriers that are not held to the same standards. Two prominent trucking companies are requesting that the government accelerate the adoption of new trade laws in order to protect the industry, quote unquote, from Mexican-based carriers not held to the same standards. The OOIDA and the Teamsters sent a joint request to the U.S. International Trade Commission earlier the week of August 14th, encouraging and supporting the accelerated adoption of rules implementing the U.S.-Mexican-Canada trade agreement. And I believe that's NAFTA. Because Mexico-based trucking companies and drivers are not held to the same rigorous U.S. safety and security regulations, they are endangering the American public and taking away jobs and profits from American drivers and carriers, said OOIDA President Todd Spencer in a statement, adding that Mexico-based operatives were also a threat to the safety of the American driving public. The Teamsters and OOIDA are requesting that all carriers are investigated to ensure compliance with U.S. motor carrier safety laws and regs. The new trade agreement, sometimes referred to as NAFTA 2.0, includes major policy changes on enforceable labor rights and regulations on industries in Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. And in this story, Iowa unveils plan to shut down 8 rest areas, but adding nearly 250 truck parking spaces. The Iowa Department of Transportation announced that they will be closing down multiple rest areas back in August, while also adding hundreds of truck parking spaces to their network. This announcement came on August 12th, when Iowa DOT planned to close 8 of the state's 38 full-service rest area locations, in addition to parking-only rest area. Most of these closures will occur over the next 8 years when the facilities reach the end of their useful life, quote-unquote. Iowa DOT will also be adding 247 truck parking spaces to their system, thanks in part to the planned upgrade and expansion of truck parking at the 6 remaining strategically located parking-only rest areas. We heard significant feedback, especially regarding the need for increased truck parking along the transportation system. This allowed us to reevaluate the implementation strategy and coordinate our plans with a freight truck parking study, which assessed the current system's truck parking needs. This study documented the need to add additional truck parking, which is reflected as a part of the final rest area plan. Whew, said Iowa DOT. The rest area plan also includes facility upgrades to 12 rest area locations prior to 2033. That was a lot to read, so that's why I said, whew. And finally, Ohio gets a new Truck World location. Woohoo! An Ohio truck stop chain recently opened its doors of a new location. New Truck World truck stop location is now open for business in Connecut, Ohio at I-90 and State Route 7. I've been by there. On your way to New York, the new truck stop location features amenities including a Burger King restaurant, Mavericks Bistro, 2 fuel islands, and shower facilities, meaning diesel and for cars. While the location is open for business, a grand opening was set for September, and there is more work to do, stocking the shelves and onboarding new truck stop employees. Truck World President Aaron Burke told local news that there is room on site for 2 more restaurants and a hotel. The Truck World is headquartered in Youngstown, Ohio, as it was founded in 1971. And if you want a good place to get an adult beverage in the Truckers World in Youngstown, Ohio, there is Aaron's Pub. No, I'm not getting any compensation for that plug. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to listen to me each week here on the cafe. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe using the link below, or on Cloud Hub, please subscribe at the top of the page. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. As I said, please, if you wouldn't mind, stop in if you're on Facebook and give us a like on Facebook. Also join our discussion group at Julia's Truckin' Cafe Regulars. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribing to our newsletter at juliastruckatcafe.com/newsletter. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. You have been listening to Julia's Truckin' Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Take care. Have a blessed day.